Okay, are you guys ready for my ultimate attack? It moves too quickly. You won't be able to dodge. Here comes the giant fist! Oh yeah, threw my punch. It's moving really fast. I mean, you could try to dodge, but like I said, it's a futile effort. Boom, there we go. Okay. Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking101 here. Welcome back to normally scheduled chapters. I know there wasn't really a lot of One Piece in April. I think we only had about 2 chapters the entire month, but it was Golden Week in Japan last week, so, you know, is what it is. What can you do? Should be getting back to, I think 2 or 3 chapters at a time, and then we'll have a break that's Oda's personal break, and then another 2 or 3 chapters, and it goes on and on. So this will be chapter 1048 of One Piece, titled 20 Years. And Oda, I see where you're going with this, okay? So 20 years ago from today, 2002, which of course everybody knows is the year that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game was officially released in North America. You know what, Oda? I already respected you. You were on my list of the top 10 people I respect the most in this world, but I think with this, I think you might be passing up Weird Al Yankovic, and that is an accomplishment, sir, alright? Alright, well anyway, we continue on with the cover series, the Germa Double Six's Emotionless Excursion. But hold, it seems that the Emotionless Excursion is actually turning into an emotional outing. I don't know, because the 2 individuals that showed up at Cacao Island earlier were in fact Reiju and Ichiji. They have arrived. We actually do not see Cacao Island here. We see actually I think just a room in Whole Cake Chateau, and it's like Brulee's chambers. It actually might be the infirmary because Cracker is also there. That's right, we finally have the triumphant return of Charlotte Cracker in this story. I knew he wasn't dead, but the entire time, I mean, he must have really been knocked out by Luffy, because we went that entire arc after Luffy and Cracker's fight. We didn't even see him, okay? I thought it would have been funny to cut through the infirmary, because there were a few scenes at Whole Cake Island that were taking place in the infirmary. It'd be really funny if Cracker was just there in a full body cast, and he just couldn't move, and it's like, oh, that's what happened to him. No, but he's still around. So Brulee is there, and she has her mirror, and she has one hand, in the mirror, so I think what she was doing was looking through the mirror at Cacao Island and seeing Ichiji and Reiju arrive to save Niji and Yonji. And so she's explaining the situation to Cracker, and Cracker's on the bed, and he's still bandaged up a little bit. His arm and his chest is sore bandaged, but he looks okay. He looks like he's recovered fully. He doesn't seem to be in pain. His whole thing is he can't really handle pain very often, so that's how Luffy was his giant punch, or his Gummo Gummo no Cannon when he was in Tank Man full version. That's why he was able to just knock him out of the rest of the arc, right? But he seems to fully recovered. He's back in action, and he's like, okay, I'll handle them. So he's about ready to step through Brulee's mirror and go to Cacao Island and deal with Reiju and Ichiji. And remember, Yonji and Niji are still at Whole Cake, so that's they're gonna have to use the mirror world in order to travel, because Big Mom's territory is huge. So what'll probably happen is Cracker will go through the mirror, have a fight with Ichiji and Reiju, and then they'll either defeat him or they'll sneak past him and get through the mirror on their own, and then they'll pop out at Whole Cake and they'll rescue their siblings. I think that's the best way to look at it there. So, we continue right where we left off with the last chapter, okay? Luffy's like, here comes the giant fist! And he's about to bring it down on Kaido. One thing I did forget last time is Luffy actually grabbed onto Kaido's neck with one of his arms, his other arm. He only has 2. But the one arm is turned into the giant fist that is larger than the mountain of Onigashima itself, larger than Muffin Mountain. I know, it's a super deluxe XL muffin. Anyway, that's coming down, and then he's grabbing onto Kaido so Kaido cannot move, alright? And so, at the same time, Luffy is communicating with Momonosuke, like, Momo, you gotta move the island, buddy, because this giant fist is coming down, and it's not making any detours, alright? So you gotta move the island. So Momonosuke is now shouting up at the sky, like, Luffy, what do you mean, move the island? I can't move the island! You're really putting the pressure on me here, man! So he's freaking out, but then he remembers his family. He remembers his father, Kozuki Oden. He remembers his sister. He remembers Toki, his mom. He remembers everybody, and in that one little moment, he's just kind of like, I can't do it, Luffy! ah, screw it, let's go! And then he just slams his entire body into the mountain. It's just like, I don't have time to sit around and be like, but Luffy, I can't! I don't know how to make the flame clouds! No, if this is the 11th hour, if this is happening now, Momonosuke's like, alright, screw the flame clouds, I'm just gonna push it! And he just slams his dragon body into the side of Onigashima, and just like, we're gonna take Onigashima, and we're gonna push it somewhere else! Patrick Star, give me strength! And he just begins to slam into the side of the mountain. Is it going to work? I couldn't tell you, but he's sure as hell trying, and that's all that matters, right? It's doing something more than him just sitting off to the side, like wallowing in self-despair or anything like that. He's attempting something. He's like, all right, can't make the flame clouds. All right, well, we're just gonna go manual on this and hope it works, right? I am a giant dragon after all. So now we have a cool scene. We have Luffy bringing down the fist. We have Kaido there staring up at it, and I love Kaido's response here. It's so Kaido, it works so well. He's looking up at this giant fist covered in hockey, spewing Conqueror's lightning, emerging from the clouds, heading straight toward him. And he just looks up at that and he's like, yeah, all right. I'll take that head on, because here's the code of a warrior, ladies and gentlemen, all right? This is how this works. There's certain attacks that are more impressive to dodge, and then there's attacks that are more impressive to take head on, all right? Say, for example, a lightning bolt. You know, when Luffy picked up that lightning bolt and he chucked Zeus's rage right at Kaido, that was an attack that would be more impressive to dodge, because he's like throwing lightning bolts at you. So if you dodge it, you can say like, I dodged a lightning bolt 200 times in a row. I'm still not getting over that. Oh, I did it. I did it. It took me an hour and a half, and my eyes were like bloodshot red by the end of it, but I did it, damn it, all right? And I don't even use Lulu as one of my mains in that game, so I don't know what the point was, but I did it! Alright, anyway, the point is here, that was more impressive to dodge. This is an attack you gotta take head on, right? Kaido's looking up at it, and he's like, alright, this is his, like, ultimate move. This is his final attack. Probably his final attack. You know, he's got to be running out of steam soon. I'm going to take this attack head on, okay? So he looks up at it and he's just like, hey, Straw Hat, you know the legend about the hero of this country, right? Kozuki Oden. And well, you know how he died, right? That's right. Shot him in the face. I mean, he burned to death. Yeah, that's how it worked. He burned to death. And with that, Kaido activates his, I would assume, his ultimate move. We have not seen this before at all in the entire run of the story. We didn't see this in the flashback with Oden. We didn't see this in any of Kaido's fighting up until now. So this is a technique Kaido probably is only reserved for when, like, the absolute best of the best. Like if Kaido was going up against Whitebeard or Shanks, maybe he used this technique when he encountered Shanks back in Marineford, maybe. You know, Rox DZ-Back, if he were to return, or, you know, any of the strong members back in the day. Wang Ji! You know Kaido would bust out this move against Wang. So, any of the strongest, you know, characters he would go up against, he would probably show off this, this form. But he literally just, out of his mouth just spews fire and magma, it seems, and smoke, and his entire body transforms into the flaming drum dragon, alright, which is an old Japanese story. It's a reference to, we'll get into that later. Point is, Kaido turns into Solar Flare Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because we're just going along with those Yu-Gi-Oh! References today, alright? So he turns into a giant flaming, here comes the giant flaming dragon! You know, and it looks badass. I mean, there seems to be a motif here. You know, King's ultimate technique was, you know, the Omori Karyudan, which summoned a giant magma fire dragon that Zoro sliced. That actually might have been inspired by Kaido's form. Like, at one point, King has been with Kaido since the very beginning of Kaido's pirate crew. King was like the first member of the pirate crew. King was like the Zoro to Kaido, kind of, right? So you know at some point, if Kaido has this move in his repertoire, King is the one that's the most likely to have seen it and witnessed it firsthand, and then he designed his ultimate attack, the Omori Karyudan, based off of Kaido's form here. So it all connects back. It's all really cool. So, oh, by the way, how is Kaido lighting himself on fire? I don't know. I don't care. Hockey. Hockey is usually the catch-all be-all. He can already spit Boro breaths. I was thinking too small about this. I thought Kaido was just going to see the giant fist coming, and he was just going to be like, okay, ultimate Boro breath. Like, all the Boro breaths at once. Like, rapid-fire Boro breath. No, he becomes the Boro breath, ladies and gentlemen. He becomes the fire, right? So he transforms into this giant, flaming dragon, duck, snake, whatever you want to call it. And as he does that, remember, Luffy still has a hand on Kaido's neck. And so his whole body heats up to insane degrees. And so Luffy has to let go. And he's like, ow! Damn, that's hot. Damn, you are so hot, Kaido. Kaido's like, yeah, I know it. Anyway, doesn't matter. You don't have to hold on to me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm taking this attack head on, right? So Luffy's like blowing on his hand. It's like severely burned. At the same time, we see Kaido's tail scrape against the side of the horn of Onigashima. The other one, remember, one of the ones that Zoro sliced off, but the other horn kind of goes up against his tail, and the thing just melts. It's solid stone, and it just melts. I don't know what kind of stone that Onigashima is made out of. Well, no, well, okay, if we're going along with the logic that the skull is an actual skull from an ancient giant that lived like tens of thousands of years ago, considering how big it was, I guess the skull is just made out of really thick bone. How hot does it have to be to melt bone? I don't know, but whatever that is, it's probably even more because of how big and, intense the skull is. Anyway, it melts one of the horns without even trying, so Kaido is nothing to scoff at here, okay? So, Kaido looks up and he's just like, well, it doesn't even matter at the end of the day because I'm gonna vaporize your fist. As soon as it comes in contact with me, it's just gonna be melted down and then you're gonna lose. My God, I can't believe Kaido still had this shit in his toolbox, It's just like we were kind of going on this thing about like, okay, Kaido is sort of reeling, he's getting close to being defeated. No, he still had his final form. Now, granted, this is probably burning a lot of stamina to go into this form this late into the battle, So the island might legitimately just fall next chapter, but still, this is really impressive. So we get a beautiful double-page spread. We have Luffy remembering his training with Hyogoro in the Udon prison, and he's like, okay, Kaido's like, oh, if I come in contact with your fist, it's gonna melt. And Luffy's like, that's okay, I trained with old man Hyo, so I know how to attack you without coming in contact with you, how to stress the haki or extend the Ryuo. And so he uses that maneuver, and they sort of clash in the sky. They're not actually coming in direct contact, but a huge explosion happens in the sky. Haki is just spewing off. It looks like magma and fire is just erupting, just billowing out of Kaido's mouth, and it's just, their attacks are just narrowly avoiding each other. Luffy's attack is the monkey god gun. All right, I'll just use the English translation there. It's the monkey god gun or monkey king gun, and Kaido's is the blazing Bagura, okay? So you gotta go with that theme there. So that is an insane attack. Luffy has to take his other hand and cover his eyes just because the light and the haki firing off. It's probably a very bright attack, and so he's avoiding that while just giving it his all. And Kaido, meanwhile, has his whole mouth open like a snake, ready just to, devour Luffy's fist, alright? Holy shit. So now we cut back down below. Why? I don't know. Why are we not focusing on this? Okay, whatever. We cut down below. We see, after the events of the flood, Usopp and Hamlet are there. And remember, they were running from the fire, and then the flood hit them and kind of knocked them all down. So they dropped Kinemon and Okiku, and Usopp's like, oh, crap, I'm sorry, guys. Please don't die. Because they're carrying these mortally wounded people, and then they get hit by a flash flood, and it's like, Kinemon gets, flown to the other side of the room. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Hamlet's there, and he's drenched. Remember, they're still all devil fruit users. Well, Okiku isn't, but Kinemon is, and Hamlet has a smile, which are still weak to water, as we learned, okay? And it was only a flood that lasted a couple of seconds, but still, if they were covered by water, that still would hurt them as devil fruit users, or it would weaken them. So Hamlet looks like a little drained here. here just because he got washed over, but the water level is receding, so they should get their strength back soon. Usopp is like, please be alive, Kinemon, I'm sorry, so we don't see him respond, but I'm gonna assume he's still alive, you know? We have all the samurai there in the hall, and they're just, you know, like reaching up and screaming, you know, please, Straw Hat, please end this! Then we cut to Kawamatsu, and he's there, and he's like, this nightmare will not end unless Kaido is defeated. He's at the center of it all. And with that being said, we now have a flashback to Oden's execution, but this time, it is from the perspective of the Scabbards. So remember, Oden nearing the end of his life after the Hour of Legends concluded, he realized he was still going to die. Obviously, Orochi and Kaido were not just going to let him go, so he takes the plank that has all the Scabbards on, and he chucks it, and so the Scabbards hit the ground, and they all rush back to Curry. Meanwhile, we see the scene with, you know, Oden getting shot by Kaido, okay? Now we see it from the perspective of the Scabbards. So the Scabbards hit the ground, and they're like, back to Curry to defend the castle, to save Lady Toki and Lord Momonosuke and Hiyori. So they all rush back, and they don't actually see Oden die. They're just running back through the crowd, and they just hear the sound of the gunshot. They just hear the bang in the background, and they all begin to weep. We see Okiku there, we see Kinemon just running as fast as they can back to the Curry region. As they're weeping, they realize what that gunshot means, okay? Meanwhile, we have Orochi there, and Kaido, and they're still sitting next to where they shot Oden. So this is immediately after Kaido took out the gun and shot Oden. Orochi comes out, and he's like, ah, Kaido, the Scabbards are getting away. Where could they be going? I know, for I am Lord Orochi, and I am very intelligent. The daimyo of Curry's Scabbards are heading back to Curry. We must blaze Oden Castle to the ground, or raise Oden Castle to the ground. No, brazing is like, isn't that a term you use for like cooking? We will make them a delicious honey-baked ham, and then burn their castle to the ground. Get their attention on the ham, and then there's like, oh, this is a good ham. Oh no, our castle. You know, okay. Well, anyway, we have Kaido there, and he's like, oh, right, he has a son. Okay. Well, I want to have a chat with him before you burn the castle down. So this is, you know, Kaido, as we saw before in the flashback, with him, like, holding Momonosuke over the balcony, because he wanted to see, you know, it's just like, okay, I killed Oden, that kind of sucks. I wonder if his son will turn out to be the same kind of man that Oden was, right, okay? And so, then, we have this scene where, oh my god, this is so sad. So, the crowd that are absolutely moved. They just witnessed the Hour of Legends. So even if they were not on Oden's side from the beginning of this, they are now. So the crowd is just kind of getting around. They're sort of, protecting the Scabbards. They're like blocking Kaido and be like, hey, come on now. Like, he survived an hour in boiling oil. That shit was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And you said he would survive. Can you just leave the Kozuki clan alone? Yeah, Oden is already dead. Please, Mr. Kaido. Kaido doesn't give a shit. He takes his kanabo and just starts whacking through the crowd of people. This poor bastard gets hit right in the chin. You know, if he's still alive, which he probably isn't, his entire lower jaw is just pounded into dust there. So Kaido's like, get out of my way! Bam, bam, bam. Like, please, sir, leave the Kozukis alone. Bam! Like, oh my god, Kaido, restrain yourself, please. Okay. Anyway, meanwhile, Orochi is like, shoot all of the vermin that would dare speak against me. Orochi's bodyguards are like, all right, gotta do what the man says so. And then they just start unloading into the crowd. So it went pretty south after Oden got shot. I mean, we already kind of knew that, but that's Oda just going on to explain, like, that was the beginning of the nightmare that would become Orochi's rule, okay? So now we cut over to Bakura Town and Curry around Oden Castle. So the castle is pretty much entirely burned down. We see it, like, you know, slanting to the side. This is after Toki did her prophecy. So this is after Momonosuke and everybody got sent to the future. This is after Kaido had his conversation with Momonosuke. And this is after Toki purportedly died, okay? So they say, oh yeah, she was confirmed dead in Bakura Town. Now, what does that mean, she was confirmed dead? Because the way that this happened was she was giving the prophecy, like, oh, in 20 years, the Scabbards will return. And then we just see a dude in the crowd, one of the Beast Pirates, like, you know, loading a gun, and then we hear a gunshot and a thud. So, I don't know. Like, that could just be the dude, like, the Beast Pirate, like, oh yeah, I shot Toki. She's dead. Don't worry about it. All right, well, what happened to her body? I buried it already. Oh, okay, I'll take that as an excuse. All right. So, I don't know. I still think Toki is still alive. I think that might just be one of the men like, oh yeah, I shot her, and I saw her fall down, and she probably burned to death. She's gone. And like, okay, I guess. I still think she jumped into the future at the last possible second, but we'll see where this goes. We haven't seen a body yet, so, you know. Anyway, they make the announcement that the Kozuki bloodline has now officially ended. They assume Momonosuke and Hiyori are dead, Odin and Toki are dead, so therefore there's no one else to continue the line. Sukiyake is long dead, so that's just how it goes. So now we have a couple of maybe days later where we have Orochi and Kaido speaking to the daimyo, the rest of the daimyo of Wano, and I've been waiting for this flashback for a while. It was hinted at before, but we get it in this chapter, and that's really what this whole chapter is about. This chapter is not about the finale between Luffy and Kaido. It's there, it's epic, but it's about just reaffirming all the horrible shit that Kaido and Orochi have wrought in this nation for 20 years. All the people are at the end of their rope. It's almost like, because I like to think of this from the perspective of the samurai in the festival hall. They can't do anything else at this point. They're all beaten down. The fires have been quenched. They're all beaten. They can't do anything. They can't fight against Kaido while he's in that form. All they can do is stand there and cheer. Cheer for Luffy. And while they're cheering, they're remembering all of this. They're remembering the Hour of Legends. They're remembering when Orochi and Kaido wiped out the daimyo. They're remembering all of the sleepless nights spent, you know, in hunger and worrying about their families, if their children are going to have enough clean water to drink or enough food to eat. You know, all the horrible things that they've done. They're just sitting there on the edge knowing that if Luffy fails, they're all dead. So this is their last chance for romance, especially here. Like, this is it, okay? So now we have the scene with Orochi and Kaido. And Orochi's like, okay, you daimyos, if you're going to bow before me, make it fast. I have an appointment with a fancy dinner. Anyway, we're going to rule over all of Wano whether you like it or not. So you're either with us or you're against us. And of course, the daimyo are like, that's a stupid question that deserves a very obvious answer, right? And they all draw their swords. So we have the three daimyo that were inside of the cave, that, along with Yamato in her flashback. We have the daimyo of the Kibi region, who's like a little guy that looks like a rice ball. We have the tall dude, who is the daimyo of the Udon region originally, and then we have Ushimaru Shimosuke, who is not the father of Zoro, but might possibly be the uncle of Zoro or distant relative of Zoro. We also have Tonoyasu there, who was the daimyo of the Hakumai region at the time. Ushimaru was the daimyo of the Ringo region, and then of course we had Odin, who was the daimyo of the Kuri region, who's already dead. So these are the four remaining daimyo, and they're of course not going to bend the knee to Kaido, especially after what happened. You know, after we saw what you did to Odin, after we saw what you did to the Kozuki clan, we would not be able to rest. We would not be able to just to accept the fact of you taking over. No, we're putting our lives on the line here. And we only see like a few panels of this, but they raised a war. They had a massive army. They gathered all of their armies from all their different regions of Wano, 4 regions of Wano all together, and just attacked Kaido in a head-on assault. They didn't win, but they tried their best, okay? We see fires in the background, Kaido's launching Boro breaths down. I mean, like, when you got Kaido the Dragon doing air support, you pretty much are screwed. It's there's cavalry with, like, you know, cavalry or cavalry. I don't know. One is the hill where Jesus was crucified. The other one was like an actual running of, I think Calvary is the actual thing I'm using here. But anyway, they're on horses. They got spears and naganatas and swords and stuff, but that's it. You know, Kaido's raining down like nukes and like fire bombs from above. You know, you can't really protect against that. So they all get wiped out. We actually see a bunch of samurai literally being burned alive, but still standing their ground. You know, it's actually a really badass scene. So afterwards, we have Orochi there, and he's just laughing it up. He's just like, ha 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 ha! I am Lord Orochi! All of the daimyo have been slain! Yay! So, of course, what happened here is, at some point, Tonoyasu manages to escape. Maybe his vassals, you manage to get him, like, Lord Tonoyasu, you must survive! And they get him out of there, and so he goes on to be Yasu, or Yasuie, living in Ebisu Town, trying to cheer the people up. Meanwhile, the other 3 daimyos, including Ushimaru, were all captured. captured and thrown in the cave. They were like thrown in that cave to be like, hey, you guys are really strong warriors. Simmer out in this cave for a few months, and then if you want to come over to my side, basically Kaido was giving them a second chance. Of course, they did not, and they befriended Yamato, and then they broke out of the cave and they charged out, and it's implied Kaido just killed them all right there, okay? We have some members of the battle that are like, you know, oh, only if Orochi didn't have Kaido backing him. This is so frustrating. We could take Orochi down in a second, so why does Kaido have to be here, you know? And so he's like, you keep your mouth shut. He has ears everywhere. He'll hear you. I'm dying anyway, you know? It's like, because it's like literally on the battlefield where he's like bleeding out, like, damn Orochi, you know, whatever. Oh my god. So now after that battle is over, now we cut throughout the years of Wano. We see the construction of all the factories, the pollution, people being thrown into slave labor in the mines and in like the plants, you know, making weapons and everything. We have, you know, everybody basically, like every strong man in the country is dragged out of their houses and forced to work, you know, so they're like separating families in the process here. We see a family like, oh, the river has turned black and gooey, you know, we can't plant anything, nothing will grow, there's no more drinking water. There's one little panel of just a woman and her baby just openly weeping, and it's not a very big panel, but I don't know why, it's just very powerful to me, because this woman just looks genuinely like broken. She's just like, there's no more drinking water, and I'm like, oh my god, that's sad. Then we see another person trying to plant things in vain in the vast wastelands of the Udon region. We see a skull there, we see a noose hanging on the tree, so like Oda couldn't actually draw like somebody hanging on the tree, but he drew the noose to imply it. So he's just like, oh man, I can't grow anything in this field. There's a noose right over there, so what do you think's gonna happen, right? Anyway, so then we just have scenes with like just, you know, the people at the prison just being tortured, you know, just like people getting whipped and just like, carry the giant block of ore, come on, you know? And so it just builds and it builds and it builds and it builds, and then it gets to the scene with Ebisu Town, the people there eating the defective smiles just because they're so hungry, so they eat the defective smiles and they start laughing, and Orochi even steals away their ability to feel sadness, and then Orochi's like, ha ha ha, this is the way the nation should be, everybody is horribly sad, but they can't even express it. And then after this is all over, the entire island will burn to the ground. That is what's best for these people for torturing my family. So of course, being a member of the Kurozubi family, this is his ultimate revenge here. This is the perfect fate for this country of pests, as Orochi puts it, okay? And he's just dancing along, having a merry time. We see a child next to his father's grave. He can't even express sadness, so he's just standing next to his dad's grave, just like, hey dad, how you doing? I'm really sad you're gone. Yeah, this is, you know, I made a video the other day talking about how they're gonna handle Orochi, like whether or not they're gonna like put him in exile or if they're really gonna kill him. And I was like, well, you know, he did horrible things, but isn't that just continuing the cycle of what happened originally with the Kurozumis? Yeah, after this chapter, I think he's gonna die. I think he's just gonna straight up die. Anyway, we cut back to Orochi, where he straight up dies. So we have a scene with Orochi there in the present time, covered in fire, approaching Hiyori. So Orochi just lunges at Hiyori while he's on fire, and then at that exact moment, we have Denjiro, Kyoshiro himself. Denjiro shows up finally after being missing for like 50 chapters, and slices down Orochi's head. It falls to the ground as Denjiro grabs Hiyori and hugs her. It's like, it's okay now, it's all good. He's taken care of, all right? Now, I said in that video that, like, you know, because Orochi keeps coming back, there's something that I missed, and it was pretty obvious. Orochi's only down to one head now, you know? He got one head sliced off by Kaido, and he went into his Yamato no Orochi form against the Scabbards, but it wasn't, like, a great, like, panel to tell if, like, one of the heads was missing or not. But now, he only has one. So you could say after being decapitated by Kaido, and then all the Scabbards, and then also being set on fire here by the Kanzenbo, the remnants of the Kanzenbo, that got him down to just one life. So it seems like he's only down to one head, like this is going to be it. So Oda probably did do that just so like everybody could get their hits in, and there wasn't anything more deeper to that. So Denjiro finally shows up. It took him a long ass time to get down here. Maybe he just got lost. Maybe it's like when you become a really powerful swordsman, you just lose all sense of direction. So he's just like, man, I gotta get down to Orochi. oh man, where is this place? Oh, there's a gift shop. Oh my god, I made a wrong turn. You know, and he's just like running through the entire castle. Finally makes it there. Doesn't say a word, by the way. Just slices down Orochi. He's like, I'll see you in hell, Komurasaki. Why is everything upside down? And then he just lands, and then Denjiro's there. And then at the same time, this is placed on the same page with the Fire Festival lifting up all of the lanterns, and the lanterns say things like, please make Orochi disappear. Free us from this hell. Get rid of Orochi. Like, the citizens do not even care anymore. They're like, you know what? Screw this. It's the Fire Festival. I don't even care if he wipes us all out the next day. I'm just gonna write down what I think. You know, get rid of Orochi. You know, just lift it up into the sky. You know, whatever, okay? And so the lanterns all go up into the sky, Orochi's head hits the floor, and then we see the last scene of the chapter, Luffy and Kaido still clashing in the air. There's no resolution to it. Kaido and Luffy are still giving it their all as their attacks are just meeting in the center of the sky. Which, by the way, okay, the citizens have to see this at this point. They're lifting up the lanterns and be like, fly, lanterns, holy shit, what's happening over there? You know, like, this is literally a giant blast, like, Luffy's covering his eyes. Like, it's like a miniature sun is just exploding in the skies above the flower capital. So they have to see this in the next chapter. Has to. No break next week. Continuing on where we left off. All right, so that was a glorious chapter. Like I said, it didn't have the conclusion, but it was important to showcase all of this. At the culmination, the crescendo, as it were, of this battle, of remembering every little thing that Orochi has done to ruin the nation, and now Orochi is decapitated, hopefully for the last time. Denjiro being the one to finish him off for good is also very poetic. The person that, like, struggled so much and felt so much hatred and pain that his face literally contorted over the years. And then we have Orochi and Luffy. No, not Orochi and Luffy. We have Kaido and Luffy in their final clash, okay? This will be resolved in the next chapter, I feel. Well, actually, next chapter is chapter 1049. You know, if you want to finish this battle, maybe in 1050. Maybe at the end of the next chapter will be the conclusion of, like, either Luffy standing over Kaido, or maybe Kaido standing over Luffy, and that'll be the conclusion of 1049, and then 1050 will be, like, the official, like, the battle is over chapter, okay? It has concluded. I don't know. But this was a crazy roller coaster ride of a chapter, really just gathering up everything that Oda established in Wano, which, keep in mind, was over 100 chapters at this point, getting close to 150 chapters, longest arc in One Piece. He set up a lot of backstory in this arc. We had backstory with Tonoyasu, we had backstory with Ushimaru, backstory with Onimaru, backstory with Kaido and Orochi, backstory with Oden, that was the big one, and the Scabbards. He took all of this backstory and then condensed it into a chapter and just be like, this is what they're fighting for. This is what Luffy is fighting for. This is what all the Scabbards are fighting for. It's this right here. And I think that's also the reason why when Denjiro finally shows up and decapitates Orochi, he doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. It's beyond words at this point. He doesn't have to have a really cool, badass, you know, action movie scene where he, like, is just like, hey, Orochi, looks like you didn't get ahead in the game after all. Or not even something punny like that, but just like, Orochi, your tyranny ends here. I think that would have detracted from it. It doesn't need words. Actions speak louder than words. Orochi's actions speak very loud and clear, and Denjiro's speak even louder. And it's just like... That's all you need. The end of a tyrant. Maybe two. Oh, yeah, one more thing. There's another theory. The theory is that all of the lanterns going up into the sky are going to be the flames that Momo uses to push Onigashima somewhere else. I don't know if that's going to actually happen now, because, well, okay, there is a little bit of a delay, so Momo actually has a little bit more time to work with because Luffy and Kaido are clashing in the middle of the sky, so he has a little bit more extra time. So it could actually happen that way, where the flames of the individual lanterns actually coalesce into the flame clouds being manipulated by Momonosuke. So the dreams and wishes of the people of the Flower Capital become the means of saving the Flower Capital. That would be also very poetic and perfect. I missed that last time, but if Momonosuke can see the lanterns on time, and if that's a possibility, everything should be able to work out, I guess, at the end of the day. All right, well, that'll be it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking, signing out.